Hello to all my people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched, Bots, and Share Shots. I'm your host, a chef by trade and a mark by choice. I am the Will Gray, and joining me tonight is an indie star hailing from the Pacific Northwest. He is everybody's favorite homeboy. He is wrestling's greatest attraction. He is Kris Brady. Kris, thanks for coming on to chat about some wrestling, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Did you bring the wrestling's greatest attraction out, man?
I
That
saw
is
that when I was
great.
looking up merch and stuff. I was like, that's a cool ass punchline, dude. I liked that.
Yeah, that was the old me before I had the trap house
Yeah?
come in.
That's cool, man. I like so we'll just kind of to roll with it a little bit. But that's kind of what I do here is we kind of start at you as an early wrestling fan and then kind of evolve through your career a little bit to where you're at right now. So I kind of look at it from a big picture. So that's kind of where I want to start with you. What was kind of your early exposure to wrestling? What were some of your first memories like as a young wrestling fan?
So, man, all I remember is being three and like, you know how you flip through the channels and trying to find something to keep a 3-year-old like focused on something so that your mom or something can continue doing what she's doing. Then Monday Night Raw was on, and I caught a glimpse of Undertaker putting Stone Cold on a big cross and like lifting him up into the air. You know what I mean? So from there, I was hooked. Non-stop watching wrestling. Even today, like from 3 years old to now, so we're talking like the late '90s. Every Monday, Raw was on, SmackDown was on, and it was just a constant evolving door. Like it never was off on the TV. So yeah, man.
So you're still like a film guy now. You'll still sit back, watch matches, keep kind of innovating your style.
Yeah, so I used to record the early SmackDown, so like it's crazy. So when you watch them now, you see all the commercials and stuff that they used to have in like the early '90s, and you forget about some of that stuff. But like, or those specific moments that continue to make you a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? So the early memories of The Rock and Stone Cold and Taker and the transformation into Biker Taker, and like I was heavily like into all that. So like it was definitely the character aspect to me, and the wrestling was when I was younger obviously came second because I didn't really care for the wrestling more. I cared for like the storylines until I got older, of course.
So after you grew up being a fan, watched it, when you decided, okay, this is it for me. I want to be a pro wrestler. What was the like breaking into your training part of your career? Deciding on a school. What was your training schedule like? Let's talk about that for a second.
Man, that was hard. So I grew up born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. The only school out here I think was the Buddy Wayne Academy, and I went to a. I was thinking of doing it when I was like 17 or 18, but I can't remember if it was closed down or something happened because I believe he had unfortunately passed away like 2 years before that, or like right around that time. And there was nothing available in this area from what I could see. The only school that they had was DOA in Portland. And by then, I had already got called into the military. Like I was already in the army, and I did my time in the military, but I got out because I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. Like nothing made me happy. It was like if I'm not in the ring or I'm not doing what I want to do, I'm not going to be happy. So I got out of the army. I went and checked out like Knox Pro in California, but as we know, California is extremely expensive. Um, so I was getting out of the army, and they offered to pay to move me. My apologies.
Bless you.
Uh, they offered to basically move me wherever I wanted to go, and I said Vegas. I found a school out there. It was called the Snake Pit Pro Wrestling, and it was training with Sin Bodie, Jake the Snake, and D'Lo Brown. So I just took a chance, packed up me and the kids, the wife, and just moved out to Vegas. I did a couple months there, and it was Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. There were night classes, obviously, but it was nonstop going, like running laps around the building. And as you're running the laps, you run into the ring to do a roll or to do something that you're learning. And then right when you're done with that spot, you roll back out the ring and you continue to jog around and play. Like it was nonstop movement. But it helped me. And, they merged together, and them and FSW merged together, and I just couldn't afford it anymore. So I moved back to Washington and got my CDL, and here we are. You know what I mean?
Coming out of the military, do you feel like you had a leg up on the conditioning side of it because of your military training?
Yeah, there's nothing like in-ring cardio, man. So like, no matter what the military was teaching me, bro, I was still getting gassed early on in the training. Like it's a different type of conditioning for sure. So I don't think I had a leg up on anybody. If anything, I felt like, oh, I'm definitely gonna be feeling this in the morning.
All right, so you've got a little bit of training under your belt. You've spent some time taking some bumps and getting your cardio in. What was the process like for you breaking into the business for the first time and getting into your first indie show?
So I did one match in Vegas for FSW. It was like a student showcase, and then like I said, I couldn't afford it anymore. I just couldn't afford Vegas. I didn't have, and all I cared about was wrestling. So like that's all I wanted to do. So like I did the dumb thing where I wasn't having a shoot job and I wasn't paying my bills and I just wasn't paying attention to anything other than wrestling. And it bit me in the ass, you know what I mean? So like I moved back to Washington, definitely, fixed myself and like changed my attitude. So I had a very negative outlook on certain things where I felt like I was at that point where, oh, why am I not on the show? Why am I not on the show? Why am I not on the show? And I know it's a slow burn and I understand that, but old me, like younger me, just didn't get that. So I moved to Washington and started doing a few indie shows out here, but they were mainly I don't want to say the lower tier ones, but that group. And I started doing those, and like, that's basically where it started for me, was like a bunch of the kind of lower tier promotions in Washington to try to like continue to learn as you go. And I stopped training and just doing the wrong things, you know what I mean? And then I found the Dragonplex Dojo. I know you're gonna ask about that, so I won't slide into that too much. But that's pretty much how it started for me.
Before we get into Dragonplex, I like asking this question. You hear the term a lot in indie wrestling and like especially in territory wrestling. You hear the term mud show. Have you ever actually had to wrestle outside in the mud in a field, or have you ever actually had to wrestle in a field outside?
No,
No.
the
Okay.
closest I think I got was like Las Vegas in like 110-degree weather at a taco festival. But I mean, like, but those are the fun times. You know what I'm saying? Those are like
Yeah.
hanging out with your friends and doing what you love to do, dude. And you got tacos and tequila, so I mean that's a plus.
I always like tacos and tequila. Never a bad
I think
idea.
everybody does.
So yeah, let's hop into Dragonplex then. What was that like when you decided that was, this is where I want to really invest some time with my training and program? What was that decision like for you?
That was probably the best decision I made in my life. You know what I mean? So like coming off of having a negative attitude and everybody looking at you in a negative light, where it was like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? You can't be on the big shows because all we've heard is negative things about you, or you don't really train or nothing like that. So I changed it up. I said, you know what? I'm going to show up to the Dragonplex Dojo. One of my friends from high school, his name is Zeb Saint. I don't know if you've heard of his, but he wrestles at the Dragonplex Dojo, and I've always wanted to wrestle for without a cause and like start getting on the better promotions. And I just showed up, and I talked to Dave Turner and Chris Ross, and at first they were like, "Oh, we didn't think you'd show up," you know what I mean? And then they're like, "Oh, he can actually wrestle," and then slowly but surely, like you build a bond with all these boys and all, everybody in the program, and you build a bond with your coaches, and everything kind of falls into place. So I still currently go there. I go there every Tuesday, Wednesday, or other days when I get an opportunity to, and it really helped step in. It helped me in the right direction because it helped me meet more people that I probably wouldn't have met if I continued going on the path I was going on. It helped me change my attitude. It helped me look at everything positive. And as you can see now, like it's all working out now, man. So, I mean, everything's going good. But Dave and Chris are very, very influential to who I am as a wrestler and, who I am as a person, man. It definitely helped me.
So I'm an old head. We were kind of talking about it a little bit before we got on the air. I grew up in the last of the NWA days, early WCW days. I mentioned Piper in Portland. Back in the old territory days, 70s and 80s, man, that Pacific Northwest was known for being a wild territory in pro wrestling. What's it like out there in 2023? What's it like for you guys wrestling out there today?
I think wrestling has just basically evolved. Obviously, back in the day, you had of course, you had Buddy Wayne, you had maybe I don't know if like a lot of the Roddy Piper, you had all these big names coming through and doing matches and doing shows and leaving. Uh, but in 2023, it's see, I don't know what it was like back then because I don't think I was around. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I can't tell you like what it was like. But I mean, nowadays it's all your friends getting together, man, and putting on something that's beautiful for the fans. So like, even in 2012 and 13, I don't even think there was much going on in the Pacific Northwest. I think you had DOA and like Without a Cause, I don't think was a thing yet. Prestige wasn't a thing yet, I don't think. And now, dude, it's like you got Prestige, you had Without a Cause, you got Defy, you got DOA, you have POW, you have Relentless. Like all these promotions are building up, and there's not one bad place to work. You know what I mean? So like, there's not a bad place to go to. I would hope that all the wrestling fans nowadays are like just jam packing these audiences with like every promotion has something beautiful to offer. And dude, it's a fun time. 2023 has been great. Even 2022 was fantastic. Like DOA is selling out nonstop. POW is selling out nonstop. Relentless is doing wonderful things. I mean, Without a Cause shut its doors, unfortunately. But even before then, like these are the places to be. You know what I mean? Especially in the Pacific Northwest. So I definitely think it changed a little bit in the aspect of like the wrestling style and obviously who's on the cards, but like you get a little bit of that old school still because some of the workers that are on these shows were around when that was going on.
Do you see a big drastic difference when you work from place to place out there? Are the crowds different, a little bit more intimate? Does one company draw a crowd and then you might go one town over and a different promotion draw a totally different like feeling or different vibe from the crowd? Do they shift that frequently inside the same area?
I guess it really just depends on what show you're on. So like I've been to a show out here where take Spokane for instance. Like they all follow us, right? We all know the fans. Like some of them were, you build up these like relationships with the fans, the people, and they want to see you, so they go to these multiple shows. So like I'll see some of them at like a Prestige show, but you don't see the Spokane's fans in Portland at like a DOA, for instance. But some of the fans from DOA might be some of the ones from PAL. But it's not like a whole like there's not like 300 people that are going from Eugene to PAL, and it's the same audiences. They're all different, and they all want to see different things, especially out here. So like Eugene is very much like we want to see the crazy. We just want to see the arm drag. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
in Portland, it's like we want to see Drexel. You know what I mean? Like it's different. And like I've been on the East Coast recently, and like the crowds up there are wild. It's such a different aspect from the West Coast to the East Coast.
So speaking on that, I was going to bring up Beyond Wrestling. First question for you, kind of looking into that though. What's it like for you going from the Pacific Northwest to the Atlantic Northeast? That's literally as far across the country as you can get, man. That's a huge gap. You've got the wife, the kids, the life,
Right.
but then you also balance all of that while you're on the road, getting from show to show. How's that handled?
Dude, that's hard. So there's an event called wrestled. And we all want to be on these big shows. We want to be on the Beyonds and Prestiges and the Defy GCW. And like, we want to be noticed. We want to show others what we have to offer. And it's kind of hard sometimes to break through that window. You know what I mean? And an event called Wrestled came out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go help set up. I'm going to shake hands. I'm going to network. That's all I wanted to do. And I did that. And somebody caught something and they posted about me on Twitter, and then here I am on a show, and I'm not sure what's to come of it, obviously, but like my wife supports it, the kids are supportive. If I need to get to the airport, my wife drops me off early, and she's the first one to pick me up. It's definitely a hard balancing act, but I think in the long game and in the long run of things, it's definitely worth it. When you get to do something you love on the bigger places, like you only have one chance. You know what I'm saying? Like if I say no to something, who's to say that'll ever happen again? If you're hot right now, you might as well jump on it while you can and like taking, I wouldn't say take advantage, but like definitely take any of those open opportunities you can get at the time because you never know when that can happen again.
I get that. We were kind of talking about that before we went on the air about having the opportunities, like somebody says, "Hey, can you be there?" Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like you sometimes you just got to take
Yeah,
them. So
no questions asked.
yeah. And you see that even, like I said, doing commentary, ring announcing, even outside of the ring from workers, it's still, competitive for those positions. There's only so many ring announcer jobs. You know what I mean? Get in there and
Right.
see it.
There's only so many ring announcer positions. There's so many wrestlers. Like you can
Yeah.
only have so many on a card, but what do you do that stands out and that you can bring to the table? I'm not saying I'm going to have a 5-star level match, but what I am saying is that I can bring something different to the table. I'm everybody's favorite homeboy. You know what I mean? I'm there for a good time to get the crowd involved, and I'm definitely a character. You know what I mean? So you don't have something like me on the roster, so getting the opportunity to present that to somebody rather than just messaging them on a social media app and saying, "Hey, this is so and so, and here I am." And 99% of the time, that only goes so far. You got to really get out there and shake hands and meet people for sure.
So Might Snow, that was a stacked card. Who's who of indie talent, Miracle
Right.
Generation with Kylan and Dustin. Tristan Ty, Alec Price, Leo Rush. Man, you were there. Like stacked fucking card. Everybody was there. What was the locker room like day of?
Dude, locker room is so nice, man. That was one of the things that attracted me to be honest. Like when I was down there for Festival, it almost felt like I lived there in a sense of like everybody was super nice to me. We all went out to dinner at some burger restaurant. Like it was cool, man. And not one disrespectful person in the bag. Everybody was helping. Everybody was just super fun to be around. So dude, it was a blast.
I love hearing that. A lot of those guys have been on the show. I've been watching some of their careers for a year or two now. So it's cool when I start seeing a lot of, like my boys all get together at a show and I'm like, hell yeah.
Right.
Like, it
Good
makes it
stuff,
easy when I've
dude.
only got to watch one show that weekend. Let's talk about character development, man. You talked about it. You're everybody's favorite homeboy. What do you do to draw influences for your character when you're deciding like how to build a gimmick, stuff like that? And I'm not asking you to pull the curtain all the way back and expose everything, but like for you personally, what's it like when you turn whatever it is up to 11 to start building your character?
Man, I'm just me on 10. You know what I'm saying? So, like, instead of talking like this shit, I'm talking like this because, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I'll switch the voices up. Definitely growing up, a huge influence on me. I have three that were really huge on me. Rey Mysterio, late 90s WCW when he was wearing the devil horns and he had the overalls on. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, the old school, like, Chicano vibe, Rey Mysterio. And then, R-Truth when he was K Quick
Yes.
and a lot of Scotty Too Hottie, man. I can't say enough of like how many times I used to do the worm inside of my house, man. Like, yeah, and if you watch me, you see some of it. You see me hitting the Dougie or the people spine when you hit the spine buster and I start Dougie in front of them and I do my little leg drop. Like a lot of that was just built on like watching those come up. Like you are influenced by what you see on TV. I know I'm not going to be a dead man. You know what I'm saying? As much as I love Undertaker, and that's probably my number one right there. But like, I was more influenced in the rap music and the homies coming down, dancing, and just having a good time. It just looked like a blast, and that's something that I wanted to carry into who I am as a worker.
Watching a lot of your film, I liked how you made it fun. You know what I mean? Like you're very much a character driven wrestler with that. Do you feel like I had somebody say once to me that they felt like the most important thing was getting a pop and getting over with the crowd instead of getting a pop and getting over with the boys in the back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you feel like as a very character driven person, like you were saying, Rey Mysterio at that point, Scotty Too Hottie at that point, you're drawing a lot of that influence. Do you feel like that's important now for you?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's important to get
That
the
kind of
crowd
connection with the
reaction,
crowd?
obviously, yeah, man, because the crowd's only going to be the ones that are going to be going on social media going to bat for you. They're going to be the ones. They're the ones that are paying the tickets. I mean, yeah, it's fun to pop the boys like a funny way, but like, I mean,
Yeah.
like it's more on like, hey, I bet you I can do a 450. You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things where, and then you do it, you kind of look at the camera and get that wink or not. But like most of the time, like 100% of the time for me. The minute that music hits, the minute DMX starts popping off in the speakers, I'm out there to have a good time with those who paid tickets to come see me. You know what I'm saying? And even if they didn't come see me, I want them to go back and tell their friends, like, bro, I know this so-and-so was on the card, but did you see Kris Brady hit that W with the pin drop, leg drop? Like, I want them to definitely go home and remember it was something I did. So it's definitely more important to pop the crowd than the boys, of course, obviously, because they're the ones paying for your merchandise, and they're the ones that are going to go on Twitter and say, "Hey, man, book Kris Brady." Like, no, it's always a win that way.
I am 100% gonna go on Twitter and say, "Hey, book Kris Brady." I'm going ahead and let you know.
Let's go.
All right, Chris. I close all my interviews with 5 random questions. Usually, they don't have anything to do with wrestling. I've got yours queued up. You ready?
Yep, let's go.
All right. If you're eating dinner, is it okay if your food touches?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
That doesn't bother you? What was your favorite?
I mean, I guess it just depends on what it is.
Fair enough. What was your favorite toy as a kid?
Favorite toy as a kid? Obviously, wrestling toys.
Wrestling
right?
figures?
Like the action figures. Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the most overused wrestling move?
The most overused wrestling move? Bro, that's a hard one. There's so many of them that are overused. I mean, you can go Super King, you can go Canadian Destroyer. I mean, I laugh and say the lockup. But
Collar and elbow.
Yeah, hold
on. 2 more real quick and we can wrap it up.
My wife wants me to try this. Yeah, that's good. You better stop. Yeah, my beautiful wife has interrupted the podcast.
No, absolutely. Food, man. Food over everything, bro. Chef by trade and a mark by choice, man. That was my previous life. I get it. Food's important.
My wife can cook, bro. My wife can cook.
Yeah? Bring her on later and have a conversation totally about food then. What's your personal pick? If somebody said, Chris, what's the best match you've ever had? What would you tell me to watch?
Ooh. Definitely my breakout moment of the year of last year, man. I wrestled Funny Bone in a match that before that match, like everybody was like, "Oh, Kris Brady's cool," you know what I'm saying? Kris Brady's dope. But the minute I got in the ring with Funny Bone, it was like a different version of me came out, and I definitely think that helped set the tone of like who Kris Brady is, who's everybody's favorite homeboy, and it definitely set me on the map. So me versus Funny Bone from PAL for sure, and the one I had at Prestige at Festival Weekend, man, it was an eye opener because everybody's seen me on the West Coast. But for me to be able to pay my own flight ticket, to bet on myself, to come out there and earn an opportunity, even if the match wasn't as long as I would like it to be. Obviously, want to have those 20-minute matches, but for what it was, and my opponent never meeting it before, I think we went crazy for 7 to 8 minutes. Like we had 8 minutes hot, whatever, and we went crazy. So definitely me versus Bobby Orlando at Festival, and me and Funny Bone at PAL Pro Wrestling.
Nice. Final question before we go home. Who's your favorite comic book character?
I didn't grow up reading comics like that. But I mean, if we're talking like Avengers style.
Yeah, like movies, X-Men, DC, Joker, whatever.
I was more of a horror. I was a horror kid.
Oh, well, then that's an easy one. Who's your favorite slasher? Like, who's your... Chucky? Fantastic pick.
Scream like, dude, 3-year-old me telling my mom at the TV, put on Drew Barrymore, get hugged in the tree. My mom would constantly replay Scream on a daily basis. I had Chucky tattooed on me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's dope.
I'm a huge Chucky and Scream fan. But we're talking superheroes. Definitely Spider-Man. Thanos is dope. Dude, I like all of them. Other than, nobody likes Aquaman. But like, other than that, dog, like, I'm down with everybody, man. All the movies this year and the last 10 years have been phenomenal.
Agreed. All right, Chris, easy part, man. Plug your stuff. Let's go home.
All right, man. So if we're doing social media, you can hit me up at Kris Brady 23, and that's Chris with a K. Kris Brady 23 on Twitter. Kris Brady 35 on Instagram. I definitely got some stuff coming up. Stay tuned. You never know where I'm gonna pop up, man.
Excellent,
I'm just having fun living in the moment.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna cut you loose, let you get back to the family. I appreciate you stopping by and chat about some wrestling with me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Now, as we close another episode of Botch Spots and Share Shots, take a minute. Thank you for listening. Remind you to go anywhere you do anything on the internet, like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again. Leave a comment telling me how great I am or how terrible I sound. Either way, it helps the algorithm and it helps find new listeners. For not wrestling's greatest attraction. He is everybody's favorite homeboy. He is still wrestling's greatest attraction, but everybody's favorite homeboy. He is Kris Brady. I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.